Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Pressure mounting on the White House over the border crisis. The press secretary saying President Biden supports a new immigration system, but can't do it alone. The White House says President Biden had a friendly call with the French president. It seems to calm down tensions over the AUKUS subdeal. 4 House Republicans filed articles of impeachment against Biden. They cite 3 failures in his presidential duties, including the border crisis and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. A new report is out from the New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority. It finds that they didn't train employees to operate special pump trucks that help with flooding after spending $1.5 million on the equipment. The White House says the president supports figuring out a new immigration system. It comes as the Biden administration faces pressure from both sides of the aisle over the border crisis. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
The White House press secretary says President Biden is committed to a new immigration system, but she says it depends on Congress acting and health conditions improving.
The president remains committed to putting in place a humane and orderly immigration system that includes an established and efficient process for applying for asylum, that includes a range of programs for individuals to apply to stay in the United States.
The White House facing criticism from both sides of the aisle. Republican Jeff Van Drew saying the Biden administration seems to deny the reality of the border crisis.
It's like I'm in Bizarro world. I see it in front of me, you see it in front of you, but some people pretend not to see it.
Democrats, on the other hand, voicing concerns about the recent treatment of illegal Haitian immigrants after images went viral of Border Patrol agents on horseback.
I'm unhappy, and I'm not just unhappy with the cowboys who were running down Haitians and using their reins to whip them. I'm happy with the administration.
Authorities trying to deal with thousands of mostly Haitian immigrants who have gathered in Del Rio, Texas. Some are being released, while others are being deported on flights.
Right now, it's not clear how they are being processed, what criteria Border Patrol is using to say who should have access to parole, who's going on the deportation flights.
He says immigrants are given different colored tickets based on whether they're a single man or woman, pregnant, or a family with minor children. Another advocate is frustrated that there isn't more transparency.
Or at least tell us the process. But now it's a credibility issue because we don't know and we're hearing mixed messaging.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited Del Rio Tuesday. He said the county's top official said the camp's most recent tally was 8,600 people. U.S. authorities have declined to say how many have been released in the U.S. in recent days. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Tensions between the U.S. and France seem to have settled down. It comes after Biden sought to smooth things over with French President Emmanuel Macron on the phone yesterday. This while Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin welcomes Australia's Prime Minister to the Pentagon. Biden's call with Macron was a half-hour long, and now France is sending its ambassador back to Washington, D.C. French officials say they were only made aware of the AUKUS deal a few hours before the announcement was made. This prompted France to remove its ambassador from Washington, which is unprecedented. In regards to the call, Biden tweeted, "Today I spoke with President Emmanuel Macron of France and reaffirmed the importance of French and European engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. I look forward to a process of in-depth consultations and to meeting with him in October." Biden acknowledged in the call that more consultation could have taken place with France ahead of the AUKUS deal. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the U.S. and France have had a strong relationship for many decades, but there have been ups and downs. Psaki said Biden aims to bring things back to normal and address the following global issues.
Addressing COVID, the global economy, security, the Indo-Pacific, and how we work together in those mechanisms will determine as we keep having close consultations and discussions moving forward.
Meanwhile, the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, welcomed Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison to the Pentagon. Austin thanked Morrison for standing with the U.S. to end their mission in Afghanistan and for what he calls an unbreakable alliance between the two countries. And Morrison praised the AUKUS deal and said it builds on existing partnerships.
Whether it's the Quad partnerships and relationships, the wonderful relationships we have with ASEAN and the region, but importantly, the relationships with NATO, the relationships with our European partners, and bringing that focus to the Indo-Pacific.
The Quad is the group of 4 countries consisting of Australia, India, Japan, and the United States. The Quad is set to meet on Friday to discuss strategy regarding China. The nations are going to discuss a range of issues, including emerging technologies and global supply chain security. Mark Green, VP of CSIS, says it's important for the Quad to provide stability in the Indo-Pacific as the CCP works to destabilize it. He says that's because Communist leader Xi Jinping has been aggressive to China's neighbors. Examples include conflict with India in the Himalayas, military operations in Japan's waters, and embargoes against Australia because they've criticized the Chinese Communist regime's human rights abuses. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said he has tried to arrange a conversation with French President Emmanuel Macron, but has been unsuccessful so far. It's been 1 week since he canceled their subdeal.
Speaking in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, Morrison showed his resolve.
The opportunity for that call is not yet, but we'll be patient. We understand their disappointment, and that is the way you manage difficult issues.
Earlier this week, Paris recalled its ambassadors from Canberra and Washington after Australia tore up a French contract for diesel submarines worth tens of billions of dollars. Instead, it signed a new agreement for nuclear-powered submarines and formed a new security alliance with the U.S. and Britain, known as AUKUS. Morrison stuck by his decision to pull out of the deal with France.
But at the end of the day, as a government, we have to do what is right for Australia and serve Australia's national security interests. And I will always choose Australia's national security interests first.
Washington, however, has had a warmer reception from France as U.S. President Joe Biden spoke to Macron over the phone on Wednesday. After the call, France said its ambassador would return to Washington next week. Morrison was not fazed.
I look forward to when the time is right and when the opportunity presents that we will have a similar discussion. And I think those issues will take further time to work through than the ones that were being dealt with between the United States and France.
He said both AUKUS and the new submarine deal had received bipartisan support during his meetings with U.S. lawmakers and officials.
An upcoming White House meeting could determine the fate of nearly the entire Biden domestic agenda, which includes more than $4 trillion worth of Biden priorities, from investments in roads, bridges, and public transportation to child care benefits and an expansion of Medicare. On Wednesday, President Biden hosted key Democratic moderates in both the House and the Senate, and after that, he'll meet with a group of progressive Democrats who have made it clear that either both the infrastructure and budget bill pass in tandem or neither does.
With its legislative agenda teetering, the White House has called in its most powerful weapon, President Biden.
We're in a pivotal period of our negotiations and discussions.
Biden hosting a series of meetings with nearly 24 Democratic lawmakers today. First with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, then with groups of warring moderates and progressives, all critical players in the intra-party combat that has broken out.
He sees his role as uniting and as working to bring together people over common agreement on a path forward.
It's a battle that has pushed Biden's sweeping dual-pronged $4 trillion domestic agenda to the brink of implosion. The meetings marking the most intensive personal effort deployed by Biden, a 36-year Senate veteran, to date. Democrats face a legislative pileup of epic proportions, less than a week from a House vote promised to moderates on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill.
And there's no one better than Speaker Pelosi at getting votes, and so I'm optimistic that we'll get it done on Monday.
With progressives threatening to tank that bill if there's no pathway on the second $3.5 trillion economic and climate package.
Half our members, more than half our members, will not move the bipartisan bill without the reconciliation bill being passed.
All as the government barrels towards a shutdown on September 30th. And with unified Senate Republican opposition, the looming threat of a catastrophic default in October.
2 Afghan nationals who fled Kabul following the Taliban takeover last month are accused of committing crimes during their stay at a military base in Wisconsin. A 20-year-old man is charged with multiple counts of attempting to engage in and engaging in sexual acts with minors. Some of the charges involve the use of force. The indictment says both of the alleged victims were under the age of 16. And a 32-year-old Afghan refugee is charged with assaulting his spouse by strangling and suffocating her. She says he beat her many times in Afghanistan to the point where she lost vision in both eyes. The indictment also says the man's wife told soldiers through an interpreter that he had on multiple occasions hit their children. The two men are now detained at a jail in Madison, Wisconsin. The pair were among more than 12,000 Afghan nationals who were evacuated during the U.S. pullout from Afghanistan. A group of Republicans is seeking to impeach President Biden. In their newly filed articles of impeachment, the GOP lawmakers say Biden has violated his presidential duties. Let's take a look at the details.
On Tuesday, 4 Republican lawmakers introduced 3 articles of impeachment against President Joe Biden. They cited Biden's handling of illegal immigrants at the southern border, the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, and his attempts to extend the federal eviction moratorium. Ohio Congressman Bob Gibbs is leading the impeachment effort. Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona, Brian Babin of Texas, and Randy Weber of Texas signed on as co-sponsors. Gibbs later explained on Twitter that he filed articles of impeachment against President Joe Biden based on what he believes to be clear violations of his duties. There are dynamics in Congress preventing this from being debated. Democrats now control the House with a 220 to 212 majority, while holding a slim one-vote majority in the upper chamber, thanks to Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. Gibbs acknowledged in an interview that the impeachment effort is unlikely to succeed, but added that it shows that there are some Republicans that think that this president needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed from office one way or another.
The surge of illegal immigrants from Haiti at the U.S. border is causing the Biden administration to look for some help with housing. The administration is looking to hire a contractor to staff the Guantanamo Bay facility for illegal immigrants in Cuba. The request calls for at least 50 unarmed custody officers who can deploy within 24 hours. 10% of these workers must be fluent in Spanish and Haitian Creole. According to the listing, the operations center has a capacity of 120 people, but says it would have an estimated daily population of only 20. It also says that number could exceed 120 migrants and possibly reach 400 in what's been called a surge event. The contractor the White House is looking for must also have equipment to build temporary housing on short notice. Recently, the naval base at Guantanamo Bay held preliminary hearings for those accused of plotting the 9/11 attacks. On the heels of that project, President Biden's special envoy for Haiti, Ambassador Daniel Foote, is resigning. He's accusing the U.S. of mistreating Haitian illegal immigrants by deporting them back to their country of origin. That's after more than 15,000 of them amassed in Del Rio, Texas. A State Department spokesman thanked Foote for his service, but defended the United States' policies toward Haiti. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorized a booster shot of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine on Wednesday, but for Americans 65 and older and some considered high risk. The third shot is to be given at least 6 months after completion of the second dose. The FDA authorization would include people most vulnerable to the disease and in high-risk frontline jobs. President Joe Biden announced in August the government's intention to roll out booster shots for people aged 16 and older this week, pending approval by the FDA and CDC. A U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention advisory panel could vote on Thursday on the use of a third shot of the vaccine, according to an agency official earlier in the week. The FDA overwhelmingly rejected a call for broader approval, with top members split on the need for boosters for the general population. Some of the agency's senior scientists argued that current evidence does not support boosters for all those aged 16 and above. Doctors are supposed to keep track of and report every adverse reaction a patient might have after vaccination. You'd be right to expect their records to be accurate, but a video taken by a purported government whistleblower is putting that total tally in question. NTD's Miguel Moreno brings us more.
Jody O'Malley says she is a registered nurse working in Phoenix, Arizona for the Indian Health Services. It's a branch of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS. In this video published by Project Veritas, she secretly captured her co-workers say adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccines are being neglected.
And how many have you seen that have gotten vaccinated here? Domestic and side effects? A lot. A lot. Have you seen it too? Yeah.
Yes, and I'm like, who's writing the VAERS report?
Nobody, because it takes over a half an hour to write the damn thing.
Right.
VAERS is a federal system doctors use to report post-vaccination adverse reactions. According to the CDC, healthcare providers are required to report to VAERS adverse reactions after COVID-19 vaccination. Here's another instance of a doctor telling O'Malley about coworkers looking the other way.
But how many people are reporting?
They are not reporting.
Right.
Because they want to shove it under the mat.
Neither the Indian Health Service nor HHS have gotten back to us. O'Malley claims that a patient obscured in the video had an adverse reaction, but the case went unreported. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene shared the video on Twitter. She said, "I'm calling for an investigation." And Arizona State Senator Kelly Townsend said she is calling on Arizona Congress members to investigate. Already, people have donated over $400,000 to a fundraiser in support of O'Malley. The fundraiser says O'Malley's salary, health benefits, pension, and career as a nurse are in jeopardy. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The California governor signs 2 laws to make sure women have access to abortion. The laws increase penalties for those who expose abortions. One bill establishes heavier fines and longer jail time for crimes like posting the home address or telephone number of abortion providers. The bill elevates the crimes from a misdemeanor to a felony. Violators used to face up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $2,500. They now face up to 1 year in jail and a fine up to $10,000. The fine goes up to $50,000 if the violation leads to an injury. That bill also creates new offenses for recording or photographing patients or providers within 100 feet of the entrance to an abortion clinic. The other bill limits health insurers from sharing information on people who obtain abortions. San Francisco is seeing an increase in reported crimes recently. The most prevalent is shoplifting. Some instances have been caught on camera and are circulating on social media. On Wednesday, the city's mayor and police chief announced steps to combat the issue. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
Retail stores in San Francisco have been reporting an increase in shoplifting crimes. San Francisco Mayor London Breed and the SFPD addressed the issue on Wednesday.
In terms of theft and burglaries has been really definitely frustrating.
Breed and the SFPD said that the city is increasing its crackdown efforts, such as increasing its organized retail crime unit as well as making shoplifting easier to report.
Much easier way for retailers, merchants, and others to report crime makes it much more efficient for us.
Some of these incidents have been caught on camera and gone viral online, such as this man robbing a Walgreens with a trash bag. In May, Walgreens closed its 17th store in San Francisco in 5 years due to the increasing issue, and Target reduced its operating hours at 6 of their stores.
When these stores decide they don't want to do business in this city and they close, people lose their jobs.
Some have been linking the increase in crime to officials being too lenient on criminals, one being District Attorney Chesa Boudin, who is currently facing a recall effort. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Coming up, private buyers have a chance to own one of the original copies of the Constitution. Made in 1787, only 11 copies of this edition survived.
Beyond Facelift MediSpa specializes in delivering non-surgical cosmetic treatments and medical aesthetic services, now featuring oil therapy, a non-surgical skin tightening FDA-approved procedure. Call 646-306-2348.
We're becoming more and more urban. We lose our connection with nature. This little girl lives in a world of natural beauty, nature all around her. Not everybody has this opportunity. Things are growing all around her, all sort of handmade things. The artist has portrayed a scene that is so comforting and so grounded that we can experience this ourselves. The artist himself has to be absolutely natural. And it's not easy to do because children are hard to paint. Birds are hard to paint. They don't sit still. This is quite an accomplishment, reflecting nature back to us. It's just a pure, natural painting.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your dog walker,
On your left!
your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
The New York City Metropolitan Transportation Authority spent $1.5 million on pump trucks to mitigate flooding, but an agency watchdog says none of its personnel were trained to operate them, leaving the equipment unmaintained. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The MTA bought the 12 trailer-mounted diesel pumps in 2018 with a federal grant meant to help the city reduce flooding. But the pumps have remained unused because MTA personnel haven't been properly trained on how to run them, according to a recent report by the MTA Inspector General. MTA has an electronic maintenance system that automatically alerts crews what needs to be done and when. Administrators and employees knew the pumps weren't being maintained, but didn't take the proper steps to fix the issue. The MTA paid for a robust training package, but only 10 employees went through 8 hours of training, with almost no hands-on time. The 10 employees were supposed to train others, but didn't. After the Inspector General started to look into the issue last year, the MTA started a maintenance checklist and started assigning work orders. Only then did it learn that crews couldn't complete all of the tasks because they weren't taught how. The supervisor responsible blamed the unique nature of the equipment for the delay, according to the report. Employees have been tentatively scheduled to get trained sometime in the next 3 months, and the MTA IG is now checking whether the same issue exists with similar equipment. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
An extremely rare printed copy of the Constitution is going up for auction in November. Sotheby's estimates it's worth $15 to $20 million. Let's take a look.
This official first printing of the Constitution is thought to have been made on the evening of September 16, 1787, and it was only for the delegates to the Constitutional Convention to use. About 500 copies are believed to have originally come from this first printing, but only 11 survived. This is the only copy that isn't in a permanent institutional collection.
The others that survive are mostly in libraries or still in official government repositories. For instance, the Delaware Hall of Records has one. There are 2 copies at the Library of Congress. The American Philosophical Society has one.
The document going up for sale doesn't have any signatures, but it includes a list of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention. It also has a letter of submission from George Washington to the Continental Congress.
Presumably, this belonged to one of the delegates to the Continental Convention or to a member of the Continental Congress. That's who this very small edition was printed for. It seems to never have left the Philadelphia area, and it was consigned to us in 1988.
Sotheby's estimates that this copy is worth $15 to $20 million, but they've sold items of that value before. For example, they auctioned the first book printed in British North America, the Bay Psalm book, for $14.3 million in 2013.
What we've used as our guide is the Declaration of Independence, the first printing of which I think is the only document that can be compared to this Constitution in terms of significance and influence. First printings of the Declaration of Independence are actually much more common than the Constitution. There are 28 known copies.
The bidding process will take place at a New York evening sales event in November, but the date is yet to be announced. This will be the first time a manuscript or historical document will be presented for auction along with major pieces of fine art.
Taiwan says there could be a political roadblock in its bid to join a regional trade agreement. That's if China joins first. It's called the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, and China wants in.
Taiwan is worried a political roadblock from China may prevent it from joining a Trans-Pacific Trade Pact. The self-ruled island filed its application to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, on Wednesday, a week after Beijing submitted its application. Taiwan's chief trade negotiator John Deng said on Thursday there could be potential problems ahead.
China has continuously been limiting Taiwan's space for international activity. I think everyone has observed this. Therefore, if China joins the agreement first, Taiwan's membership application will of course be quite at risk.
Taiwan has applied to join the CPTPP under the name the Separate Customs Territory of Taiwan, Penghu, Jinmen, and Matsu. It's the same name it uses for its membership in the World Trade Organization. But Beijing has always insisted Taiwan is part of its territory rather than a separate country. That's led to Taiwan being excluded from many international bodies. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian on Thursday hit back at Taiwan's bid to join the pact.
We resolutely oppose any country's official exchanges with Taiwan and resolutely oppose the Taiwan region's accession to any official agreements and organizations.
The CPTPP's precursor, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was originally a 12-member agreement seen as an important economic counterweight to China's growing influence.
The personal information of over 1 billion Indians has been compromised by hackers. Researchers suspect the hacking group is sponsored by the Chinese regime. The group has hacked a media conglomerate, a police department, and a government agency. The government agency holds residents' data in order to issue ID cards. A new report highlights that the malware the hackers used is shared exclusively among several Chinese state-sponsored groups. U.S.-based cybersecurity group Recorded Future reports that China has had a growing strategic interest in India in recent years. The organization tracks hacking operations against Indian entities that are suspected to be sponsored by Beijing. They say there is already over a 260% increase this year compared to last. This follows an increase of 120% between 2019 and 2020. Lithuania's cybersecurity report warns of Chinese cell phone Xiaomi censorship and a similar flaw found in Huawei. The country's national defense says, don't buy those Chinese phones. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more of the details.
Central European country Lithuania is going a step further to counter China's authoritarian regime. The country's defense ministry recommended that consumers avoid buying Chinese mobile phones. And to those who already own them, the minister says throw them away. That's after a government report found the devices had built-in censorship capabilities. Lithuania's state-run cybersecurity body said on Tuesday, flagship phones sold in Europe by China's smartphone giant Xiaomi can censor terms such as Free Tibet, Long Live Taiwan Independence, and Democracy Movement. The report says this capability in a certain Xiaomi model had been turned off for the European Union region, but that it could be turned on remotely at any time. The National Cyber Center says they found the same security flaw in a Huawei phone. However, Huawei's representative denies the accusation. The center's report says Xiaomi's censor list currently includes 449 terms in Chinese and is continuously updated. U.S. regulators are reviewing video conferencing company Zoom's purchase of an American company, citing national security concerns over the company's ties to China. That's according to a letter posted on the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC's website. In July, Zoom reached a $15 billion deal to buy customer service software company Five9. Advisory firm Institutional Shareholder Services warned of risk due to Zoom's substantial operations in China. A group led by the Justice Department is now reviewing the deal. It asked the FCC to put the deal on hold until the review is done. It's also facing mounting privacy and security concerns after research reports revealed in some cases its encryption keys were being transmitted to servers in China. This is the latest move by the U.S. government toward Chinese telecom companies. In recent years, they carried out a campaign to expel the communist regime's ties to the sector in the U.S. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is clamping down on the entertainment industry. More than 700 talent agencies in China have been shut down so far this year. 100+ talent agencies were canceled in June alone. That's according to data from Chinese enterprise information website Tianyanca. Early this month, the China Performance Industry Association released an announcement asking agencies to assume responsibility for the political education and loyalty of artists and to fire those who are not subordinate. The association warned that agencies that didn't comply would be punished. A week later, the association held an online meeting, issuing self-regulation measures to online platforms. The online platforms responded quickly. After the meeting, they jointly issued a statement outlining their self-disciplinary action, saying they would strengthen censorship and encourage people to report. Zheng Qianyuan, director of the Taiwan Policy Research Institute, told the Epoch Times that the purge is all about Chinese leader Xi Jinping cleaning out the Shanghai clique. That's the group of officials who rose to prominence under former CCP leader Jiang Zemin 2 decades ago. Zheng explained that China's entertainment industry has close ties to the CCP. The lucrative industry used to be under the control of Jiang Zemin. Zheng said purging the entertainment industry is a warning from Xi and also a sign of his authority, but that it also raises speculation about the reach of Xi's control. China-based commentator Lu Bai says the CCP's clampdown on the entertainment and other industries aims to divide their assets while the Chinese economy is under strain.
A growing number of global Fortune 500 companies are speeding up their withdrawals from China. South Korea's Samsung Heavy Industries, Japanese electronics giant Toshiba, and Swedish telecom manufacturer Ericsson are closing their branches in China, and that's just in September.
Thousands of Samsung employees gathered at the company's Ningbo plant to protest the factory closure. They held banners saying, "Samsung is my home. I want to work. I need to support my family." South Korean shipbuilder Samsung Heavy Industries, or Samsung Heavy for short, is withdrawing its capital from the plant. According to a South Korean media outlet, the reason behind the move is decreased productivity caused by superannuated factories. Samsung employees blame government policy, saying they suffered the most from major policy changes. In May 2008, then Chinese Communist Party Secretary of Guangdong Province, Wang Yang, proposed an industrial restructuring strategy. He dubbed it "Vacate the Cage and Replace the Bird," meaning to relocate or eliminate certain industries in the region and replace or upgrade others. A document said Ningbo city authorities signed an agreement to reclaim about over 470 hectares of land owned by Samsung Heavy Industries. Mr. Zhang is an employee of Samsung's Ningbo shipyard. He told the Epoch Times Chinese language edition that early last year, workers had heard Ningbo officials were planning to take over the land, adding that they plan to build a chemical zone. Samsung Heavy is one of many in the same situation. More foreign Fortune Global 500 companies are speeding up their withdrawals from China this month. Japanese electronics giant Toshiba and Swedish telecom gear maker Ericsson are also closing their branches in China. According to Japanese outlet Nikkei Asia, Toshiba will shutter its factory in China's northeastern city of Dalian at the end of September. Toshiba Dalian opened in September 1991. The upcoming closure marks its 30th anniversary. Swedish telecom gear maker Ericsson is closing its research and development center in the eastern Nanjing city. According to Chinese financial media company Caixin, Ericsson's second quarter financial report indicates an over 60% drop year-on-year. Amid the consequences of the US-China trade war, coupled with the impact of the pandemic, the global supply chain has seen the importance of disconnecting from the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese financial blogger Financial Cold Eye explains, now it's a major trend for the foreign companies of Fortune Global 500 to move their industrial chains out of China. As for other companies, Japan's Panasonic Group will also close its battery plant in Shanghai, China. And earlier this year, computer hardware company IBM shut down a research institute in Beijing after 25 years in operation. According to a CNBC report from March last year, Apple, Microsoft, and Google plan to move their production lines out of China to other Asian countries. While Nikkei Asia reported that global consumer electronics maker HP, Dell, Microsoft, and Amazon are all looking to shift substantial production capacity out of China.
Just ahead, a Japanese architect is unveiling the story behind the Aquatic Center for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Both he and his world-renowned architect father built aquatic centers for the Tokyo Olympics decades apart. All that and more in just a moment.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here with a new message about your Medicare benefits. You may be entitled to transportation, meals, and expanded coverage for dental work that includes extractions, fillings, and dentures, all at no additional cost. Plus, depending on your zip code, you may be entitled to the Medicare benefit that adds money to your Social Security check every single month. Call and get everything you deserve. Call now. It's free.
I'm on a fixed income, so I called to get money added to my Social Security check. They helped me so much.
I called to save money on copays, get prescriptions, transportation, and my dental work covered. I couldn't believe I was spending money I don't have to spend.
Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline, and you can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
At this Tokyo barbecue restaurant, diners enjoy plates of meat delivered by a robot or over a conveyor belt. But up until fall of last year, this eatery used to be an izakaya, a Japanese-style pub which serves small dishes and alcohol.
At one barbecue restaurant in Tokyo, plates of food are now served on a conveyor belt while robots operate as waiters. Watami used to be a chain of izakayas, Japanese-style pubs serving small dishes and alcohol. But after Japan instated new restrictions banning alcohol and cutting back opening hours, the restaurant saw sales plunge by more than 80%. Owner Miki Watanabe turned to other solutions to cut labor costs and stay afloat.
Due to this coronavirus, the izakaya market shrank much more than I had expected. When you think about what could replace this izakaya market, from what I have been observing during the coronavirus pandemic, yakinaku and sushi restaurants have been able to secure customers.
But not all restaurants have complied with the government's rules, which are not legally binding. Watanabe says the country's next prime minister, which will be determined in little under a week, should do more to help eateries.
If we will be under a state of emergency, the government should make policies that are best suitable for the situation. Maybe we will be asked to close by 7 or by 9. In accordance to those policies, they should also provide a fair compensation for business suspension.
Watanabe now plans to convert 40% of Watami's 300 outlets into high-tech barbecue restaurants by next April.
Like father, like son, the Japanese architect who designed the Aquatic Center for the 2022 Olympics in Tokyo reveals his inspiration. Decades earlier, his father designed a landmark arena for the country's 1964 Olympics. Here's more.
The construction of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics Aquatic Center was a dream come true for its architect, Paul Noritaka Tange. Even after the event, it still lives on as a legacy for both residents and those visiting in the city.
That is very important. I mean, because Olympic is just a midpoint in the life of these buildings.
Paul is the son of Pritzker-winning architect Kenzo Tange, who designed the Yogi-Yogi National Gymnasium for the 1964 Olympic Games. With its traditional iconic roof, the arena stands as one of Tokyo's most recognizable architectural landmarks. While the pandemic barred spectators from the Olympic events there this year, Tange says he designed the Aquatic Center with audiences in mind. It was supposed to house 15,000 people.
We created the space where no columns can be seen from spectator's perspective, and you can see the spectator on one side to the other. So because people get kind of energy, seeing other side, get other people getting excited.
The swimming pool has impressed athletes competing in the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games too. And on top of that, embodies the notion of sustainability. With a lifting roof, it can host more seats for large events. But when moved down, it turns into a medium-sized venue for smaller scale events after the Olympics. Paul said he once visited his father's grave to seek his blessing after winning the commission for the Aquatic Center.
I report to him and say that we have done this. I don't know how you feel about it, but we are very proud. So please bless us to give us a good power to design the facility. So that was my sentimental journey.
His father died in 2005. His 1964 Olympics arena also inspired the architect for the new National Olympic Stadium, home of the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2020 Games.
People around the globe celebrated World Rhino Day yesterday, yet in East Africa, the northern white rhino is on the verge of extinction, with only 2 females left on Earth. Conservationists are now racing against time to save the species.
These animals are named Naijin and Fatu, the last 2 northern white rhinos on the planet. Both female, yet neither was able to conceive after the last male died in 2018. Joined by conservationists around the world, staff at the Ol Pejeta Conservancy in Kenya are battling to create a successful pregnancy using eggs harvested from Naijin and Fatu and sperm collected from males before their deaths.
The process is being perfected on zoo animals in Europe primarily, and once it has been perfected there, then we will attempt to replicate it here in surrogate females based on the Ol Pejeta Conservancy.
So far, 12 embryos have been created. The plan is first to artificially fertilize these embryos and then implant them into a surrogate southern white rhino. Those involved in this work are keenly aware of a time crunch, especially after delays caused by the pandemic, because Naijin, now 32, is getting older, and her eggs may soon no longer be viable.
Having the last 2 northern white rhino is a clear symbol of what extinction means. And because these animals, they are not able to speak for themselves, we act as their voice. We speak on their behalf so that we can try to prevent extinction not to happen anymore.
Decades of poaching have taken a heavy toll on the rhino species. Their horns are used as carving material and are prized in traditional Chinese medicine for their supposed healing properties. As this year's World Rhino Day just passed, many are reflecting on the challenges that come with protecting the species.
Rhino horn is worth so much money, more than its value in gold or even platinum. And that means that there are people trying to kill rhinos every day, looking for ways to get access to that horn and send it to places like China. And as a result, the people who protect rhinos are themselves in danger, sometimes even in greater danger than the rhinos themselves.
Other species, like southern white rhinos and the black rhino, also fall prey to poachers. Both are endangered species on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List.
A new study suggests people with a higher consumption of dairy fat have a lower risk of cardiovascular disease. An international team of scientists studied the dairy fat consumption of more than 4,000 60-year-olds in Sweden. They measured blood levels of a particular fatty acid that's mostly found in dairy foods. Experts then followed them for an average of 16 years. Researchers found those with high levels of the fatty acid, indicating a high intake of dairy fats, had the lowest risk of cardiovascular disease, and they had no increased risk of death from all causes. The team then confirmed the findings in other populations after combining the results with 17 other studies involving nearly 43,000 people from the US, Denmark, and the UK. The study did not identify what type of dairy products the subjects consumed. The study was published in the journal PLOS Medicine. Today we have some tips on how to keep your skin healthy and give it what it needs to stay clear. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Summers can have a downside for our skin. The hot and humid weather and the sun's harsh rays can wreak havoc. They increase the chances of you developing a plethora of issues. But the good thing is you can keep these problems at bay by switching up your skincare routine. Here are some skincare tips to beat this summer's heat. Number 1. Follow a CTM routine. A basic CTM routine is beneficial year-round for your skin. Here's what it entails. Starting with cleansing. Cleansing eliminates the dead skin, excess oil, dirt, grime, and pollutants to leave you with fresh and clean skin. Toning. Toning helps cleanse any residue, shrinks the pores, and prevents clogging. It balances the skin. And finally, moisturizing. Moisturizing helps hydrate the skin and strengthen its natural barrier. Optimum moisture levels help in skin renewal by activating collagen production. Number 2 on the list is don't skip sun protection. Summer is when you need to step up your sun protection game. A good, natural, broad-spectrum sunscreen helps prevent sunburns, pigmentation, and oxidative damage caused by harmful UVA and UVB rays. Number 3, indulge in face masks and face packs. Your skin can easily get stressed and look dull in the scorching summer heat. Use a cooling and rejuvenating face mask to beat the heat and protect your skin from tanning and burning. Look for ingredients such as oatmeal, aloe vera, clay, cucumber, green tea, licorice, and chamomile. Number 4, go light with makeup. Sweat and humidity can take a toll on your skin's texture and cause breakouts, hence use light makeup just to give your skin a subtle hint of colour. Water-based formulas work well in summers. Number 5, focus on eye and lip care. Your eyes and lips are probably the most sensitive areas of the face and require intensive care. Protect your eyes from UV rays by wearing sunglasses. Also, you can de-stress your eyes at night with night serum. For lip protection, apply an SPF-based lip balm daily. Scrub away the dead skin and dullness 2 to 3 times a week using a mild lip scrub. Number 6, get a manicure and pedicure. Body parts other than your face that are frequently exposed to the sun also need to be cared for. Scrubbing your feet in the shower can be helpful in preventing dead skin. You can also opt for a pedicure session every 15 days to ensure complete foot care. And finally, number 7, hydration. Keeping hydrated is the key to maintaining healthy skin during the summer. It quenches the skin's thirst and prevents dullness. Therefore, always carry a water bottle whenever you step out. The summer sun can damage your skin and make it look dull and lifeless. Following the tips we've talked about today can help you to stay hydrated, clear, and problem-free all through the season.
Next year is going to be about cool and refreshing colors, according to Sherwin-Williams. The paint manufacturer has chosen Evergreen Fog as its 2022 Color of the Year. Sherwin-Williams says the mix of gray and green color has a sophisticated earthy feel that can be used both indoors and outdoors. The company has chosen a Color of the Year for the last 12 years. They start by looking at industry trends and emerging themes to create a color mix forecast. The 2022 forecast included 40 colors and 4 palettes. Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can